My wife, Sophia, had a car accident on her way to the courthouse to file for divorce. Ever since, her spirit has been trapped by my side, though I pretend I can't see her. The doctor said she might never wake up. As soon as he heard this, the man she adored, that senior Ethan, immediately distanced himself from her and quickly went public with someone else. Yet, if Sophia were to wake up, he would feign deep affection. "Sophia, you're finally awake. I've been waiting for you all these years." Looking at Sophia lying unconscious in the ICU, a feeling of schadenfreude, a mix of sadness and joy at her misfortune, welled up in me. Look, I thought, this is the retribution for betraying true love. The doctor said her brain was severely damaged, the chance of waking up less than 5%. When Ethan heard this, he visited her in the hospital, looked at her with disgust, and never returned. But perhaps he forgot that Sophia's accident was because of him. Just 6 months ago, the day before Sophia intended to divorce me, she received a call from Ethan. He said he was drunk at a gathering and couldn't get home. Sophia sped to pick him up, resulting in a chain reaction collision. When I received the call and rushed to the hospital, I was faced with flimsy critical condition notices. No one could understand my emotions then. On one hand, I darkly hoped she would just die and get it over with. On the other, I maliciously thought that dying like this was too easy for her. I didn't know what outcome I wanted. I only hoped that she would experience all the suffering I had endured. Only then would it be fair. But now, she lay in the hospital, a vegetable, and the man she loved most, Ethan, no longer wanted her. I once advised Ethan that talking to someone in a vegetative state might increase their chances of waking up. He just smiled, not answering. What does that have to do with me? Why should I waste my youth on someone in a vegetative state who means nothing to me? His reply struck me as incredibly ironic. When he made Sophia abandon me, burning with a 40-degree fever, to attend his birthday party, he didn't say means nothing to me. When he wanted Sophia to demand a divorce from me so she could be with him, he didn't say means nothing to me. But when Sophia, because of him, had an accident, became a vegetable, and needed his companionship and care, he said, means nothing to me. I said nothing more, silently watching his retreating figure, hastily leaving as if to avoid something unlucky. That's right, who would want to wait for a vegetable who might never wake up? I tilted my head slightly, my gaze unintentionally sweeping to the side, where her spirit, who had followed me for so long, now resided. She must be in so much pain. Sophia didn't know I could see her. It was the second week after the accident. I had accidentally dozed off in my study and was awakened by the night breeze through the window. In my blurred vision, I saw Sophia leaning against the bookshelf, a sorrowful expression on her face. The white curtain gently brushed past her. My drowsiness vanished instantly. I even forgot to react, remaining slumped over the desk, eyes slightly open. A moment later, I called the hospital and was told that Miss Sophia was stable today. Her condition hadn't worsened, but there were no signs of her waking up. After calmly hanging up, I blinked and realized her entire body was slightly transparent. So I stood up, walked across the soft carpet, and slowly approached her, pretending not to see anything. I reached through her body to grab a book from the third shelf. Only then did I realize Sophia's soul had detached from her body and was trapped beside me. Not only that, but I could also hear her voice. Because when I held the divorce agreement her lawyer had prepared, I heard her chuckle, "Lihim, you must be thrilled now, right? I can't divorce you now. It's just as you wished." She always thought I was the one clinging on, refusing to let go. But the truth was, I was genuinely ready to give her up. She had tormented me for too long. Now it was my turn to make her feel the pain of betrayal. That's why I let her personally hear Ethan callously sever ties with her. A nurse's footsteps echoed from the end of the hallway. I silently entered the ICU and approached her bedside. I had to admit, even in a patient's gown, Sophia was still incredibly beautiful. But I loved Sophia and was with her never because of her face. After all, the more beautiful something is, the more dangerous it can be. So, when we first met at the same wedding as best man and bridesmaid respectively, I had already classified her as a dangerous item. Apart from politely handing her a tissue when water was spilled on her, I didn't have much contact. But fate is unstoppable. Soon after, we met for the second time. I was jogging in the park in the evening and happened to save an old lady who had fainted, who knew she was Sophia's grandmother. From the time Sophia invited me to dinner to express her gratitude, we began to meet more frequently. As the coincidences piled up, I started to feel something was amiss and deliberately avoided her. But Sophia not only ignored my distancing, she moved closer, until I couldn't retreat anymore. Helplessly, I asked her what she wanted. Only then did she smile, her eyes sparkling as she looked at me. "Liam, I'm pursuing you. Can't you feel it?" I didn't know why Sophia liked me, but from then on, she no longer subtly tested me but directly launched an intense offensive. I resisted her advances, but for someone like me who had never been in love, not being moved by Sophia at that time was almost impossible. Surrender was only a matter of time. The occasion for me to agree to be with her was on Valentine's Day. I had drunk a lot at dinner to close a deal. As I was about to leave, I accidentally witnessed my father on a date with his young mistress. After a fierce argument, Sophia suddenly stood before me, sneered, and threw a bon appetit. "You disgusting people." Then she took my hand and walked me out of the restaurant. In the flickering night lights, Sophia carefully used a tissue to wipe the water from my face, without mentioning the unpleasant incident. Then she said it was the first time in years someone had stood up for me in such a protective manner. Couples walked by on the street. Sophia's voice was gentle, as if asking if I wanted to have dinner together. "Liam, want to spend Valentine's together?" I looked into her sincere eyes, smiled, and nodded. She, serious for a moment, suddenly laughed, took a chocolate from her pocket, unwrapped it, and placed it in my mouth. At that time, I was so foolish and naive, thinking this was forever. It wasn't until Ethan returned to the country that I learned the forever only lasted until he appeared. After Ethan showed up, all promises and vows became a joke. Like every other tragic story, he was the first love Sophia yearned for but couldn't have. After he chose to be with another woman and went abroad, Sophia always remembered him, and I was just a pawn on her life's path. Sophia had only one relative, her grandmother. Her grandmother had initially fainted due to stomach cancer. The only thing she worried about in life was Sophia, so she hoped to see her get married. I was just the tool Sophia chose to reassure her grandmother. But Sophia's grandmother genuinely liked me and treated me very well. The love I received from Sophia was an illusion, but the affection I received from her grandmother was real. She made the osmanthus cakes I loved most. She sided with me when Sophia and I had conflicts. Even before she passed away, she told me, "Marrying this girl, you're the one getting the short end of the stick, Liam. Only if you two live well can I rest assured." At that time, Sophia, with reddened eyes, tightly held my hand and promised she definitely would. I discovered something was wrong because of a very small incident. One evening, while we were having dinner together, I told her that after an unexpected rain shower during the day, a double rainbow had appeared in the sky. Everyone on social media was posting pictures they had taken. "A double rainbow appeared," I said, asking if she had seen it. She didn't answer. A few seconds later, she realized I had stopped eating and was silently looking at her. Only then did she gently smile and ask, "Liam, what did you just say?" Back in school, whenever I encountered a multiple-choice question I didn't know, I could rely on intuition to guess the correct answer. I never expected that this skill I once prided myself on would one day be used on Sophia. Almost uncontrollably, I guessed that in those few seconds Sophia was distracted. She was thinking about a man, and I guessed correctly. It was Ethan. He was a senior, 3 years older than Sophia. Back then, Sophia wasn't as mature and beautiful as she later became, just a young, inexperienced girl. She couldn't win against a girl who was both beautiful and wealthy, also in love with Ethan. So it was no surprise she lost. But perhaps she never thought that one day Ethan would break up and return to the country. And by this time, she had completely transformed. It seemed as if everything was perfectly aligned. The previous separation was only so they could meet again at the best time. I don't know how much Sophia loved Ethan to be able to successfully lure him away from my side time and time again, completely disregarding the fact that she was already someone else's wife. Just a soft, "I want to be with Sophia," from him was enough to destroy my marriage. From initial suspicion to later questioning, then to begging, and finally to outrage, Sophia pushed me away with disgust. "Liam, you look so disgusting now." That night, I stood on the balcony all night, tears soaking cigarette after cigarette, and finally understood one thing. Sophia was right. I also found myself disgusting. So I gave up. When Sophia once again mentioned divorce, I asked, "In the 3 years we were together, was there any moment you were truly sincere?" She impatiently avoided my gaze, coldly saying, "No." I lowered my head, silent for a few seconds, then calmly agreed to the divorce. She seemed a bit surprised, looking at me warily. "What trick are you playing this time?" "That's right. The previous times, I had always used excuses like suddenly falling ill or my car breaking down mid-journey to repeatedly delay. The one time I genuinely wanted to divorce her, she had the accident because of Ethan. But now, Ethan had not only decisively abandoned her, but also gotten back together with his ex-girlfriend. It was said that the reason Ethan broke up and returned to the country was because his beautiful, wealthy girlfriend had an ambiguous relationship with her first love. They had argued many times over this and eventually broke up. But as they say, what you can't have, you always long for, and what you've lost, you regret and want back. So, when Ethan returned and got together with Sophia, that beautiful, wealthy ex-girlfriend also came back looking for him. It's hard to say whether Ethan, while with Sophia, was simply trying to provoke his beautiful ex. After all, Sophia had once been her rival. And it was precisely during the time Sophia wanted to divorce me for Ethan that the beautiful ex-girlfriend regretted her actions and was most desperately trying to win him back. She did many romantic and extreme things, using drones to form the word sorry with flowers. Ethan silently watched these actions but continued to be with Sophia. Then, not long after Sophia's accident and coma, the beautiful girl once again used a giant LED screen to apologize and confess her love. Only then did he agree to get back together. No one knew what role Sophia played between them, but the beautiful girl did indeed visit Sophia in the hospital once. She looked at the motionless Sophia with a relieved expression. "Though it might be wrong to think so, I'm very grateful for this car accident. Sophia, I won this time." At that moment, Sophia, her spirit, was standing behind her, staring at her with a gloomy face, but unable to do anything due to her ethereal state. From hearing Ethan declare he was cutting ties to witnessing him reconcile with his ex, Sophia went from disbelief to uncontrollable anger, and finally, to helpless acceptance of it all. I calmly watched every part of her suffering, watching her start to silently follow me. I felt a great sense of satisfaction. She had wanted to cut ties with me, never wanted to see me again, yet ended up being forced to be by my side every day, like breathing. Now, she also had to follow me to work, to gatherings with friends, to strolls in the city, even when I planned long trips. I started to hear her resentful, dissatisfied voice. "I'm in a coma, and you're in the mood to travel? Lihim, have I been lying here so long that you've forgotten you're married? Stay away from that woman." The woman she referred to was an intern I supervised, named Olivia. Of all the interns I'd mentored, she was the only one who didn't formally call me Director Lihim, and also the most capable among them. Actually, I didn't care how they addressed me, but Sophia didn't think so. Every time Olivia appeared by my side, she would show a side of herself I had never seen. "Lihim, are you blind? Can't you see her impure intentions?" I looked up at Olivia, who was quietly working on one side, not understanding why Sophia was so furious. Of course, I was no longer an inexperienced young man. Naturally, I could see what Olivia was thinking. She liked me. Olivia's appearance was the lively, adorable type that young men nowadays really like. In terms of personality, she knew when to be coquettish and when to be calmer than anyone else. Since I'd known her, I had almost never seen her lose control of her emotions. Even when a colleague accidentally deleted a plan she had worked hard on, she could still calmly finish her breakfast and then composedly choose the fastest method to recover it. After resolving the issue, she even told the anxious and apologetic colleague, "It's okay, just be more careful next time." I only saw a panicked expression on her face once. It was when we went together to discuss a collaborative project. After it ended, she went to get the car, while I, suffering from a headache after drinking, rested in the room for a while before going to find her. As a result, halfway there, I encountered a drunkard. The moment he furiously tried to hit me with a bottle, I grabbed his wrist, pinning him down. The bottle fell and shattered. When Olivia found me, she was panting and apologizing. "Sorry, I'm late." I smiled at her. Not late at all, just in time. Later, while she was bandaging my wound and driving me home, I looked out the window and said in a soft voice, "Olivia, I'm married. She didn't look surprised, still looking straight ahead, and replied casually, I know, but I heard you're about to get a divorce. This was our only conversation about private matters since we'd known each other. Everything was true, and there were no inappropriate actions. So Sophia's anger puzzled me. I clearly hadn't done anything, and she clearly didn't love me, so why be angry? But it didn't matter. I continued to maintain a normal working relationship with Olivia until one day when we went to inspect the site layout for an event. Scaffolding suddenly collapsed. Olivia reacted extremely quickly, pushing me out of danger and taking the brunt of the impact herself. I followed the ambulance to the hospital, anxiously waiting for her test results. When the doctor said she was fine, just needed to rest at home, I received a call from Sophia's attending physician. It was only then I suddenly realized that when Olivia and I fell, Sophia, who had always been following me and had frantically called out, Lihim, had disappeared. At the same time, the doctor's voice came through the phone, saying Sophia might be showing signs of waking up. I held the disconnected phone, stood in place for a moment, then went to the intensive care unit. Standing before Sophia, who was still sleeping with her eyes closed, I sneered, a less than 3% chance, and she can still wake up? I didn't know if Sophia would wake up, but half a month after I left the hospital that day, I heard another piece of news. Ethan had broken up with his beautiful, wealthy girlfriend again. Not long after getting back with him, she had an ambiguous relationship with some unidentified internet heartthrob. Ethan no longer had his previous suave demeanor when breaking up. Instead, in a large shopping mall, completely disregarding his image, he was both cursing vehemently and humbly begging. I watched the scene from afar and felt a sense of familiarity, because that was me in the past, who had clung to Sophia like a mentally unstable madman, refusing to let go. The deepest impression was on my birthday when I accidentally ran into Sophia, who had said she was on a business trip, happily chatting with Ethan. At that moment, I felt as if my entire body, from head to toe, had been doused with a bucket of ice water, yet my heart felt like it was on fire, an unbearable pain. I didn't care anymore. I lunged forward and swept everything off their table. Sophia immediately stood up, angrily questioning, Lihim, are you crazy? Ethan smirked, looking at Sophia. Why marry this kind of man? My rationality completely shattered. I raised my fist and punched him. Or what? Marry a homewrecker like you? Then, Sophia didn't hesitate to raise her hand and slap me. The taste of blood immediately filled my mouth. That night, for the first time, she said, Lihim, let's get a divorce. I had once truly, deeply loved Sophia. So, even when logic told me to let go, emotionally I was unwilling, reluctant, and even more so, I didn't want them to be happy. And now, Ethan was also tasting the pain I had once endured. His previous breakup had been a clean break, but this time his choices were completely different. I couldn't help but suspect it was because his escape route, his safety net, the tool he used to provoke that beautiful, wealthy girl, Sophia, was now unconscious in a coma. The charade continued. As I stirred my coffee and was about to look away, I caught sight of a faint figure in the corner of the crowd, calmly watching Ethan lose his composure. It was Sophia. After many days, her spirit had reappeared. Only this time, she was no longer tethered to my side, but she also couldn't get close to me. 3 meters, that was the closest she could get. I thought that after regaining her freedom, she wouldn't follow me anymore. But unexpectedly, every morning after that, when I left for work, I'd see her standing silently under a ginkgo tree near the gate of our residential complex. The moment she saw me, she would instinctively walk towards me, only to be yanked back to her original spot as if by a powerful force. Each time she approached, she was pulled back. I don't know if lonely spirits like her, wandering this world, long for someone to see them. But one afternoon, as I came out of the bakery, I smiled in her direction. After her initial shock, she seemed a bit agitated, her lips moving. She was probably mouthing, Lihim. Then, carrying the exquisitely packaged cake, I walked forward, watching her being forced to retreat step by step, until I stopped where she had been standing. She saw Olivia walk through her body and towards me. Since that accident, Olivia had been recovering at home. During that time, I visited her once with flowers and fruit, and also covered all her medical expenses and hired a caregiver. She didn't refuse. Only when I asked if she needed anything else, she looked into my eyes and said, My birthday is in a month. Now she had recovered and it was her birthday. I brought the cake to fulfill my promise to celebrate her birthday with her. As I carried the cake towards the parking lot, Sophia probably guessed what we were about to do. She shouted through the bustling crowd, "Liam, you can't go. Come back. Liam, come back." Without hesitation, I walked to the car. Looking in the rearview mirror, I saw Sophia's expression growing increasingly intense. I felt a slight jolt, remembering a small incident from not long after Sophia and I first got together. I had just moved to a new company. One evening, I needed to work late. I told Sophia not to wait for me for dinner. My colleagues and I planned to grab a late-night snack after work. However, as soon as I got in the car, Sophia called. Her voice, tinged with a light, helpless yet gentle laugh, came through the phone. "Liam, I've waited for you downstairs for 3 hours. Are you planning to abandon me?" Filled with remorse, I saw Sophia's figure in the rearview mirror, holding a lunchbox. I immediately got out of the car, ran to her and hugged her, asking why she hadn't called and had waited here alone. She gently nuzzled my chest, laughing. Of course, I didn't dare disturb my dear boyfriend who was busy working. My thoughts returned to the present. Sophia's faint figure in the rearview mirror grew smaller and smaller until it became a black dot. I heard Olivia ask what I was looking at. I jokingly replied, "Watching a comedy." 15 minutes later, we arrived at the reserved restaurant. Although it was her birthday, Olivia had actually ordered dishes to my taste. I discreetly shifted my gaze to the cake, opened the packaging, and a sweet orange scent immediately wafted out. After lighting the candles, I held up the cake, smiled, and said, "Happy birthday, Olivia. Make a wish." The unique lighting of the restaurant was soft and hazy. Through the dancing candlelight, I couldn't see her face clearly, but I knew she was looking at me seriously before closing her eyes to make a wish. "I wish I won't be late anymore." I couldn't help but chuckle, put down the cake, and raised my wine glass to toast her. "Then I wish for your wish to come true." Later, after dinner, slightly tipsy, we strolled along the riverside path. The water reflected the brilliant lights. I silently watched for a moment, then sighed. In my second private conversation with Olivia, I was very frank. "Olivia, although I'm about to get divorced, you also know she had a car accident and is in a coma." The night breeze gently blew, making the bangs on her forehead sway slightly. She seemed completely unfazed by the implication in my words, casually leaning her arm on the riverside railing, tilting her head to look at me, and said frankly, "Divorce and widowhood will eventually have an outcome." Just as those words were spoken, I was astonished to see Sophia's figure not far away. I didn't know if the night breeze had carried those words to her ears. I glanced over. She was silently looking at me. Then, as if self-mockingly, she chuckled, her figure gradually fading into the wind. 3 days later, I received the news. Sophia had woken up. Ethan arrived at the hospital before I did. In the cold hospital room, he was gently saying, word by word, under Sophia's calm gaze, "I've always been waiting for you, Sophia. You're finally awake." I didn't know how he knew Sophia had woken up, nor did I care about his sincere confession. My gaze swept over Sophia's eyes, which had been fixed on me since I appeared. I turned to ask the doctor standing beside me, "When can she be discharged?" The doctor cautiously explained, "Miss Sophia has just woken up. She needs to stay in the hospital for observation for a while and undergo physical therapy. If there's anything urgent." I smiled politely. "Nothing urgent. Just need to go get divorced." As soon as I finished speaking, I heard a thud. Sophia had knocked over the water cup in Ethan's hand. Under his astonished gaze, she stared at me, her eyes red as if extremely angry. "Liam, I just woke up, and you don't even ask a single question. You're that eager to divorce me?" Look, she was always good at twisting black and white, distorting the truth. It was clearly she who had used every means to force me to divorce, and now she was blaming me for wanting a divorce. Before I could open my mouth, I heard Ethan call out to Sophia, his voice very light, tinged with confusion and doubt. The hospital room fell silent for a moment. I calmly looked at the shattered glass cup on the floor, then, ignoring Sophia's furious gaze, decisively turned and left, leaving only one sentence. "When you're discharged, inform me so we can get divorced." After that, I never went to the hospital again. Conversely, I heard Ethan went to the hospital every day. What he did specifically, I didn't know, nor did I care. But the annoying thing was, every 2 or 3 days, I would receive a call from the hospital, the content invariably informing me about Sophia's recovery status. I wasn't sure if these things really needed to be reported to family members, but I didn't want to know. So, when they called again, I politely refused. She's an adult. There's no need to report every situation to me. Next time, unless she dies, don't call me anymore. Before hanging up, I heard the sound of glass shattering on the floor from the other end, along with Ethan's surprised cry. The next time I saw Sophia was on an evening 2 months later. She had been discharged. Since my car was being washed, Olivia, who had worked late with me, drove me to the entrance of my residential complex. Just as I saw her car off, I heard an angry voice from behind. Lihim! The smile on my lips froze. I turned around. It was Sophia. Her face was a bit pale and she had lost a lot of weight. Her thin coat billowed in the night wind. The streetlight elongated her shadow. I stood still, watching her hurry towards me, then coldly questioned, "So late? Where are you two coming from?" I was too lazy to answer her, turned to leave. If it's not about the divorce, I don't think we need to talk. I had only taken 2 steps when I was blocked. Sophia looked at me with fierce eyes, biting out each word. Lihim, don't forget we're still not divorced. I almost immediately understood her meaning and felt incredibly ironic. I couldn't help but chuckle, lowered my head, and asked softly, Sophia, that marriage certificate couldn't bind you before. Do you think it can bind me now? A month after Sophia was discharged, her attitude towards Ethan had changed 180 degrees since she woke up. The change was so obvious that even the nurses in the hospital could notice Sophia's coldness towards Ethan. After being discharged, Sophia even used the clumsy excuse of needing to handle work matters to refuse to see him, and then appeared downstairs at my company building, outside the gate of my residential complex, every day. Because now, she didn't want a divorce anymore. So when Ethan came to find me, the first thing he said was, Lihim, you did it on purpose, right? Intentionally found a woman to be ambiguous with. The purpose was to provoke Sophia, to make her cling to you. At that time, I had just come out of a restaurant. His words amused me. One hand holding coffee, the other casually in my trouser pocket. I looked down at him and said calmly, Not wrong, just as you think. I had no interest in listening to his baseless accusations, quickly walked around him, and entered the company gate. Then I turned back to see him unwillingly trying to follow. He was stopped by security. Facing the security guard's hesitant question, Director Lihim, this gentleman is? I smiled. Just an outsider. After that, I didn't see Ethan again. But I heard Sophia repeatedly gave him the cold shoulder. Later, Ethan couldn't take it anymore and coldly, indifferently told her, Sophia, you'd better not regret it. I won't give you another chance. Not long after, he was with the daughter of a vice president in his company, who had a strong liking for him. Clearly, the harsh words Ethan left behind had no effect on Sophia, because she, as before, found various excuses to meet me and firmly said, Lihim, I won't divorce. I only found it ironic and amusing that she, who had previously tried every means to force me to divorce, probably never expected that one day our roles would be reversed, and the one saying this would become her. I even heard her gentle voice, which I hadn't heard for a long time. Lihim, can we start over? She said, start over. She wanted me to pretend I had amnesia, as if Ethan had never appeared, as if she had never hurt me, as if nothing had ever happened. Then, without any burden in my heart, I would return to her side, love her as before. I felt a bit helpless, but more than that, puzzled. In the end, I only replied to her with one sentence. How could I marry someone like you, Sophia? This sentence probably hit a nerve. Immediately, she flew into a rage out of shame, shouting, Then who do you want to marry? That in turn. After saying that, she asked me again, Lihim, haven't you had enough? To her, wanting a divorce was to pursue true love. But if I wanted a divorce, it was unreasonable. Actually, since I had given up and accepted her, I hadn't been angry for a long time. My career was smooth. Friends were by my side. Life was comfortable. There seemed to be nothing worth getting angry about anymore. Until this moment, my emotions were once again stirred. Words were not enough for me to vent my anger. So, I raised my hand without hesitation and slapped her hard across the face. After my slap, there was a stretch of silence. Sophia's face was turned to one side from the impact. She kept her head tilted for a long time before chuckling softly. The slap I owed you, now I've returned it. Satisfied? I know you allowed her to get close solely to take revenge on me. Lihim, you've achieved your goal. I didn't deny it. I did indeed have feelings for Olivia. The reason was very simple. Once I was worrying about a difficult project. In the afternoon, I sat alone on a bench in the square, lost in thought. All around me were various sounds of laughter and play, colorful balloons and soap bubbles flying back and forth, but none of it concerned me. It was in such a setting that a mascot bear holding a balloon walked through the crowd to my side, tied the balloon to my wrist, and then danced a wiggling rabbit dance for me. She said her dancing wasn't standard, but she still made me laugh. I tilted my head slightly, looked at her and teased. Wearing a bear costume to dance a rabbit dance, Olivia, you're truly one of a kind. She stepped closer, took off the bear head, revealing a flushed face, her bangs damp with sweat, but her eyes were still clear and bright. Her gaze rested on my face. She said, what I wear doesn't matter. What I danced doesn't matter. What's important is that you smiled, Lihim. Yes, I had smiled. So the reason was very simple. She made me happy. Then I squinted, looked at her carefully, thought for a moment and asked, the mascot bear that appeared before me last time, was that also you? It was the night Sophia and I had our first fight because of Ethan. I was sitting leaning against the glass wall in a cafe, sad and dejected. A mascot bear approached me, performing a magic trick through the glass. At that time, Olivia hadn't joined my company yet. I didn't know who was inside that costume. I only remembered that in the end, I silently mouthed thank you to her. Then she looked at me silently for a few seconds, slowly turned, and walked into the crowd. Not long after, I heard her introduction in front of the interns at the company. Hello, I'm Olivia. Unlike last time, this time Olivia had taken off the bear head, stood before me, looked at me for a moment, then said softly, do you still remember me? I tugged at the balloon on my wrist, blinked. Of course, I remember you. Compared to the intense, strong wine-like feelings Sophia brought me, the emotions from Olivia were like a glass of fresh, clean lemon water, not too stimulating, nor did it make one lose oneself. It was peaceful and warm. Moreover, because of one failed relationship, I wouldn't go so far as to swear off love entirely. Doing so seemed to place too much importance on the short 4 years with Sophia in my long life. Therefore, I didn't resist my feelings for Olivia. After all, love itself isn't wrong. The mistake lies with people. And Sophia was just a mistake I encountered on my life's path. Once I let go of everything. What happened afterwards no longer concerned her. I certainly wouldn't use genuine feelings to take revenge on her. So, to Sophia's confident question, I just gently shook my head, looking at her mockingly. You think too highly of yourself, Sophia. Her face turned pale the moment I finished speaking. Her lips trembled, her voice hoarse and shaky. Lihim, I know it was all my fault before. I was too stubborn for a moment and hurt you, but now I know I was wrong. I understand that the person I truly love is you. So I won't divorce. Facing her stubborn expression, I smiled faintly. In that case, Sophia, you can also taste what it's like when the person you love day and night is thinking about another woman. The knife she once stabbed me with has finally stabbed herself. Sophia said the person she truly loved was me. Honestly, when I heard this, my mind didn't waver at all. I even wanted to laugh. If it absolutely had to take such cruel pain and injury for her to distinguish who she truly loved, then that love, to me, is an insult. Moreover, this was built on the foundation of Ethan deceiving and abandoning her, which then made her feel regret. After that, Sophia continued to harass me for a long time. I didn't deliberately avoid her, nor did I angrily chase her away. Underneath the company building, late at night outside the residential gate, in the rain. If she wanted to stand, she stood. If she wanted to wait, she waited. After all, apart from this kind of demeaning clinging, she could no longer interfere in my life. In fact, we were still legally married when she approached me again. She asked me, Lihim, actually, you don't love me that much, do you? I didn't know what mood she was in when she said this. I lowered my head, looked closely into her eyes, and asked, Sophia, Do you remember the summer of the second year after we got married? On a summer afternoon filled with the sound of cicadas, while we were having barbecue at an outdoor restaurant, we encountered a group of drunk troublemakers. In the chaos, I shielded you from a flying piece of a broken bottle. My thin shirt was torn, and the blood from the wound on my side stained a large patch of your white chiffon dress red. When I woke up in the hospital room, the first thing I saw was you, disheveled, sitting by my bed, your eyes bloodshot, holding my hand, and saying in a hoarse voice, "Liam, don't do this anymore. Okay? I really can't bear to see you get hurt." At that time, I weakly smiled at her. "Don't worry, it doesn't hurt that much." Indeed, it didn't hurt too much. But compared to the pain she later inflicted on me, it was far less. The recollection happened in silence. Neither of us spoke. In my ears was the sound of her trembling breath. Finally, I sighed helplessly. "Sophia, for years ago, no one could compare to you in my heart." After a long pause, she struggled to speak, her voice hoarse and dry. "And now, in your heart, am I no longer comparable to her?" I looked at her seriously and shook my head. "Sophia, now, you are no longer in my heart." Perhaps, having reached a dead end, she gave a cruel smile and started to play the family card. "But Liam, you promised Grandma you would live well with me." I remained silent, tired, saying nothing, just opened my phone and showed her a picture. It was a letter her grandmother had left for me. The gist was that if Sophia did anything too outrageous, I didn't need to feel any guilt. Just leave her and don't look back. I once thought this letter would never see the light of day. Unexpectedly, it was used twice. The first time, I didn't listen in time and got entangled for a long time. The second time was now. Outside the window, it had started to rain lightly at some point. The gloomy dusk descended. Sophia's eyes were red. Finally, without saying anything, she turned and left. Her footsteps hurried, her retreating figure pathetic. A long, long time ago, I had imagined that when Sophia forced me to divorce, I would definitely be in pain, resentfully looking at her, beautiful and radiant, and say, "Sophia, I will never forgive you." But now, when that day truly arrived, my emotions were surprisingly calm. When we met at the Civil Affairs Bureau, Sophia looked much more haggard. I heard that after being drenched in heavy rain that day, she went home and developed a high fever that wouldn't subside, and had to be taken to the hospital by ambulance. Perhaps that car accident really had a huge impact on her health. My friend told me over the phone that the sequelae of the accident had appeared. It was unknown how long she had left to live. Infidelity in marriage, betrayal of true love. This is what she deserved. I hired the best divorce lawyer and submitted all the evidence of Sophia's infidelity. Therefore, when dividing the assets, I didn't concede a single bit of what was rightfully mine. During the proceedings, Sophia remained silent until we were about to leave. Before parting, she suddenly spoke, as if asking me, but also as if comforting herself. "If Ethan hadn't come back then, could we have walked this life together?" If Ethan hadn't come back, her lies to me might never have been exposed. But she would still forever remember that unattainable white moonlight love. The longer the time, the more beautiful the image of that white moonlight love would become in her heart. Then one day, because of some small conflict between us, she would start to constantly reminisce, and in her silent comparisons, I would become the object of her disgust. I looked up at the cloudless sky, smiled faintly. "Sophia, this three-person whirlwind, I was never meant to be in it. It was you, for your own selfish reasons, who deliberately pulled me in." Life after the divorce didn't change much. I still went to work, socialized normally, and occasionally, after finishing a project, I would take a few days to travel. There was only one difference. Olivia and I had confirmed our romantic relationship. It was 3 months after my divorce, at a friend's birthday party. I was getting some air on the rooftop when a project partner approached, handed me a glass of wine, and politely and elegantly inquired, "Previously, when we collaborated, we chatted about an old movie. I recently found the original soundtrack CD. I wonder if director Liam would be interested." We were both adults. The meaning was self-evident. I slightly pursed my lips, about to smile and say something, when I heard a clear voice from behind her. "Excuse me." I was in line first. Olivia, in a bright and stunning fishtail dress, her long black hair cascading down her back, stood quietly in place, looking at me intently, warm and radiant. The night breeze carried the scent of unnamed flowers. I was the first to break the silence, glanced at the wine glass in the partner's hand, and then said frankly, "Sorry, I prefer lemonade." The rejection was clear enough. Soon, only Olivia and I were left on the rooftop. I stood silently for a moment, then slightly bowed my head, smiled at the fiery red sunset, and asked her, "So, Olivia, what movie are we going to watch?" She looked up at me, her eyes sparkling brightly, and said in a particularly serious tone, "Let's go see I Love You." Life between Olivia and me didn't have any dramatic, memorable episodes, but whenever I thought about it, I felt that everywhere was filled with wonderful, warm moments. The warm milk she brought me in the morning, the hangover tea she brewed for me afterwards, the neatly ironed shirts, the prepared ties, and the small spare ribs I loved most on the dinner table every night. Sometimes, through the mirror, I would watch her seriously drying my hair and couldn't help but recall the first time I realized her feelings. It was probably in the elevator. She stood behind me, and through the mirror, her gaze lingered on me, a gaze that wasn't entirely innocent. Olivia had a very high level of psychological maturity, clear-headed, independent, and exceptionally talented. In our relationship, what she gave me was clearly more than what I gave her. As for me, apart from accompanying her, it seemed I couldn't give her anything else. Occasionally, I would ask her if she felt it was unfair. She would calmly shake her head, hug me, and sigh, her voice carrying an indescribable grievance. "I just feel like you could leave at any time." Honestly, because I had been betrayed in love before, even though I cared for her, I still kept an escape route, not giving my whole love. After a moment of silence, I could only say, "Not being able to make you feel my complete love, that's my fault. I'm sorry." She, as if enlightened, smiled, her tone very serious. "Then I'll love you a little more to make up for our incomplete love." I don't know how far Olivia and I can go, but when we're together, she makes me comfortable and happy. So I will live each day well. If we're compatible, we stay together. If not, we part. As long as I'm comfortable, that's the lesson I learned from my failed relationship with Sophia. The next time I saw Sophia was in the second year after our divorce, at a welcome party for a friend returning from abroad. On my way back to the private room from the restroom, I was blocked at one end of the hallway because a crowd had gathered to watch some commotion, blocking the passage. I backed out of the crowd, intending to see what was happening, but unexpectedly caught a glimpse of Sophia, also blocked at the other end of the crowd. She was silently looking at me, then casually looked away. Just as I looked up and clearly saw one of the main characters of the drama, the one screaming hysterically like a madman, I froze. It was Ethan. Sometimes, one can't help but marvel at the wonders of fate. It brought the three of us together in an affair, and now, once again, we encountered each other in a similar event. Initially, Ethan and the vice president's daughter got married not long after they got together. Unfortunately, in the second year of their marriage, he had an affair. At first, I didn't know whether to sympathize with her repeated experiences of being cheated on or to rejoice at the retribution he was facing. But I hoped that in every moment of pain, he would remember that there was once someone who was tormented just like this because of him. Afterwards, the crowd dispersed. As Sophia and I passed each other, she suddenly called my name. Then, in a hoarse voice, said one word, "Sorry." I stopped, looked at her, unable to discern her expression. It seemed sad, regretful, and also like an uncontrollable pain. I had no interest in speculating, just said in a gentle voice, "I will not forgive you, and I hope you don't live well." She really didn't live well. I heard that due to the sequelae of the accident, she frequently traveled abroad for treatment. But in the end, it was all in vain. Both her physical and mental conditions were deteriorating. Hearing this news, she was startled. When Olivia called me from a distance and walked towards me, Sophia quickly turned her back. For some reason, I felt her retreating figure was slightly hunched and trembling faintly, but without a sound. Returning home, lying on the bed, I was too tired to talk. I took Olivia's phone and silently scrolled through it aimlessly. Perhaps she thought I was unhappy because I had met Sophia and recalled bad memories from the past. So she leaned closer, held my hand, and apologized. "Sorry, I'm late." It was at that moment I accidentally flipped to an old photo in her album, taken many years ago. The person in the photo was me. In my third year of university, I tutored a high school student in English. Her parents were divorced and she lived with her mother, But her mother was busy with her career and, apart from matters related to her studies, paid little attention to her life. She needed English tutoring only because she deliberately failed her exams to attract her mother's attention. So, my role was not just a tutor but also a companion. The last class was on her birthday. I didn't know what she liked, so I just chose an orange-flavored cake. She didn't eat much. I thought she didn't like it. Unexpectedly, when the course ended and we were about to part, she seriously told me, "I really like it." That student was Olivia. The photo was taken when she had placed her phone in an open book and secretly snapped a picture of me while I was eating cake. Actually, from the first glance when I met her at the company, I had recognized her. What surprised me was that not only had she secretly taken my picture back then, but she had also kept it for so long. My heart suddenly trembled. I didn't know if her "I'm late" meant not coming out of the room sooner to leave with me, or not being able to find me before Sophia hurt me. But it didn't matter. I would hold her hand tightly, smile at her. Not late at all, just in time. The cool night breeze, the gentle moonlight, the lover by my side. Everything was just right. True love is not a blazing fire that burns intensely and then dies out, but a gentle light that endures through the years. Don't lose faith and love because of one wrong heart. Knowing how to let go of unworthy things is how we mature. True happiness may come late, but as Lihim said, not late at all, just in time. Live each day, cherish the person by your side, and remember that a refreshing glass of lemonade is sometimes more precious than a strong, intoxicating wine that bewilders the mind.